Welcome to Small Caps. My name is Kerry Stevenson. Today, delighted to have Greg Phaneuf join me. He's the Vice President of Finance and the CFO of Grounded Lithium Corporation, listed on the TSX-V only recently under the ticker code GRD. Now, this is a lithium story and it's very exciting. Early days, but with a team that is very well versed in developing resources. So, Greg, great to see you. Thanks for joining us on Small Caps today.
Good morning, or I guess good evening. Good calling here from Canada. So I think it's bright and early in the morning for you Aussie friends. I do have relatives in Australia, believe it or not. So kindred spirit.
It's pretty nice down here at the moment. But up there, you guys have been very busy. Talk to us, first of all, a brief overview, if you like, of who are Grounded Lithium Corporation.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. We are, as Kerry mentioned, a fairly young company, relatively speaking. We were incorporated about 2 years ago. We are all ex-energy or oil and gas professionals. Recently incorporated, we've been busy on acquiring land. We have now close to 250 sections of land. That's a square mile here in Canadian terms. So an ample land base. We raised money last fall and into the beginning of this spring with a mining boutique firm called Red Cloud Securities. In the combination with our going public transaction, which was a reverse takeover, we had a concurrent financing as part of that. All said, we raised about 5.7 million through that process, Kerry, and put us in a great position to conduct activities, which we have a lot of them on the near-term horizon, and moreover, some of them that will be longer-term objectives, but very well capitalized, clean balance sheet. And as the CFO, I like having a clean balance sheet with no debt.
Yeah, I like that. But you mentioned the reverse takeover. What was the rationale behind that? Why the takeover? And I think it was VAR Resources Corporation.
Correct.
What's the rationale behind that?
We've both been executives of private and public corporations. I do think in the junior resource development space or industry, there's just more access to capital being a public company than private. And I think, that's probably first and foremost, because this is an early industry. It's going to need capital to develop itself ultimately. And there are some, obviously pros and cons of being private versus public. But I think when we looked at the balance sheet of being a public company, the access to capital was the key one for us. That's first. And then secondly, investors always want liquidity. It's important to have liquidity. And being in a private company, I've been there myself firsthand as an investor. Sometimes very tough to get out. And you can't really walk with your feet if you don't believe in what management or the board are endorsing as strategy. So I think, being in a public sphere, having access to capital and having liquidity for your shareholders really drove us to look at candidates. Now, we looked at a number of different candidates. Here in Canada, we have what are considered capital pool companies, or SPACs, another way of calling them.
Yep.
We looked at those, but we ended up coming to VAR through a series of meetings, liked the capital structure, the very clean shell, or listed issuer, I guess I should say, and conducive to building a business that would be in the lithium industry. So, started talking, got into confidential discussions, and lo and behold, executed an amalgamation with them that closed end of June, and then had to go through the process to go through shareholder meetings, and then ultimately get listed, as you mentioned, late August on the TSX-V.
Exciting times. Now, you did mention that the board, yourself included, have got a lot of experience in oil and gas. What's the pivot to lithium from the oil and gas sector? And
I love that word. Yeah, I love that word, Kerry, pivot. It's a very common term around these parts because, look, we're dedicated to the energy business. We've been there for most of our careers. I'm not going to get into, a diatribe here as to whether fossil fuels are needed or not. But the fact of the matter is, in this country, it's been a tough go, I think, for a lot of oil and gas companies to flourish, lots of headwinds. Okay. And the oil and gas sector is very common to see lots of consolidation and M&A activity. That's what in fact happened to a lot of the companies that are founders have been involved in. And when we looked at kind of starting up again, we kind of did a bit of soul searching and looked at, quite frankly, energy transition.
Right.
And energy transition is not, it's not a fad. It's a global movement. We're seeing it all over the world.
Yeah.
It's not just EV cars, but it's battery storage. It's all things electronic. And being entrepreneurs, we have started small companies in our past and looked at energy transition as a place that could really generate returns for shareholders and investors. We thought, let's use our expertise, and we'll probably come to it in this discussion interview, in the oil and gas sector and apply it to lithium, because lithium from brine is what we're all about.
Yeah.
Is really oil and gas operations just looking for a different end product. You're still drilling a well, you're still producing product up through the wellbore. You're processing that differently, of course, in lithium versus any kind of oil and gas activity, but really it's the same skill set. So your geologists, your engineers, your land people, your finance people, all of that really is almost the exact same. It's almost a layup. So you use the word pivot. It's kind of a layup in terms of applying those skill sets, which I think is one of the key success factors and key determinants of our business, our company, as compared to some of our peers, is that we can take all that experience and apply it to lithium in a sector that doesn't have headwinds. Quite frankly, it has tailwinds, and that's exciting. It's exciting for us. I think it's exciting for potential investors.
Greg, I'd never actually thought of it the way you've just described it. And it's just given me that light bulb moment, if you like, of saying, oil and gas, you were drilling wells, and the DLE, the direct lithium extraction method that you are going to be using with your projects, there are similarities. But what do you say to those people out there? And we'll take this in two steps, if you like.
Sure.
Why are you going down the direct lithium extraction? Because it's a sort of a new technology, and there are people out there, Greg, that turn around and go, it's never going to work. What do you say to them?
Well, people can have opinions, and everyone has opinions, among other things. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I think technology is it's always evolving, ever evolving. And to give you a bit of an example, again, going back to some of the oil and gas routes here in Canada, we have what's called SAGD, steam-assisted gravity drainage. And it's a way of producing heavy oil out of the ground. And if you went back 40 years ago, this technology was not even really contemplated. It was an idea. And over time, leading engineers, physicists, et cetera, developed this SAGD technology. And now it's pretty much commonplace when it comes to extracting in situ heavy oil reserves.
Okay.
So I would use the same analogy, and that's just an example close to home. There'd be countless examples in medicine, chemistry, auto manufacturing, you name it, where technology is ever advancing. So I think it would be very naive, in our view, to say that it'll never work, because I think it will work. And in fact, the root technology of direct lithium extraction has been used in the uranium industry for decades. So all we're talking about here is applying it to a different process. This, it's lithium. Now, I'm no chemist, but I would hazard a guess that smarter people than me will figure it out. And we fact and say in our presentations that we will stand on the shoulders of giants in terms of having others, crack that nut. We're happy for them to do that, and we'll pay a license fee that would be commercially negotiated, but we're prepared to be just resource developers and let somebody else figure out the technology. Now on DLE itself, there are some 50 to 70 different companies pursuing DLE around the world. We get to sit back and pick the best one based on the chemistry of our brine that'll come out of the subsurface. So again, I think that that nut will get solved, and the macroeconomics of satisfying the world's lithium demand justify it.
That takes me nicely into your actual project. You're in Southwest Saskatchewan, up there in Canada. Talk to us about what you've got and why you guys are looking at it and going, we are going to develop this. This is looking really good. we've got good. I guess what's the path that you're looking at to commercialization of this particular project? Talk to us about the vision.
Yeah. Great question, Carrie. So, these are major facilities. This does not happen overnight with the snap of a finger. You have to spend, time and resources to develop a new industry. So, we have a project plan. We would see ourselves being commercially operational by the end of 2025, early 2026.
Oh, wow.
Which may seem like a long time, but when you compare it to a lithium from spodumene mine, a mine can take 10 years.
Absolutely.
So we are actually looking to fast track a supply of lithium to the market in advance of other means. And we can get into the whole environmental benefits here as well in a minute. But we're probably 4 to 5 years away, Carrie, from first cash flow, first true commercial production. So in the meantime, we have a dedicated plan in terms of doing sampling, extraction testing, moving from a lab pilot to a field pilot. And then if those results of that field pilot at a certain scale are positive and warrant further investment, then we move into a full-on commercial operation, which that involves engineering design, it involves construction, it involves regulatory permitting, it involves all those things, and that just takes time. In my experience, having been involved in a couple of large projects in my career, and certainly Greg Smith has in his career, our CEO, those are year to 2 year builds, start to finish. So when I say 2025, 2026, that's actually moving quite quick. When it comes to a new process. And then I wanted to also kind of build off one of your comments and your question about what our plan is. And I think that's an interesting question in terms of the whole lithium environment or supply demand. There's clear trade tensions between Asia and North America. And there's been a lot of announcements here in North America regarding either auto manufacturers, trying to line up sources of lithium supply to make their batteries, or it can be actually battery manufacturing companies looking to build plants in North America. So you have a captive almost customer base looking to source lithium on an environmentally friendly basis and not from jurisdictions where you got to pay the cost of transportation to get it there. Like we are literally, if your audience and readers are familiar with the Canadian geography, Saskatchewan's basically the Midwest of Canada, and we're a straight shot down by either rail or transport truck down to some of these places in the States where there's been announcements made by multi-billion-dollar companies to build battery supply chain plants. So that's what our plan is that we will feed that market in 4 to 5 years.
What are the steps to get there? I guess where I'm coming from now is as an investor audience listening to us today, you've recently listed, as I said, on the TSX-V. You've got 57 million shares on issue, so nice tight structure out there. I want to find out what's the value add right now in this early stage for people that are looking and listening right now.
So we are an early entrant into this industry. We have an abundance of near-term catalysts that we will provide. We provide the support to the stock. So that's some of the things I mentioned. So some sampling. So it's doing a concentration test of the brine coming out of your wells to see it's got economic concentrations of lithium. There'll be a number of activities by ourselves to re-enter existing oil and gas wells that are adjacent to nearby our property. So there's an environmental benefit there for sure, a win-win as I call it, when it comes to the lithium industry as well as the oil and gas industry. We are drilling our own test wells. We in fact just drilled our first test well last month, and we'll be completing that in the next few weeks. So there's a number of press releases that'll be communicated by GRD over the coming months towards the end of the year in terms of proving the resource, the resource base of our acreage. Moving from there, then it's proving the extraction testing. So moving into a chosen technology, we got some movements there we can't quite publicly speak to, that'll help assess which technologies we're going to center around. And once you've made that selection, then you go out and you build your field pilots or your commercial demonstration facilities to prove that all of the work you've done in the field to prove out your concentrations, deliverability of the brine, which is also equally important. It's not just a concentration test, it's also deliverability of the brine itself. Put all that bundled together, get comfort on a small field pilot to prove that there's worthy of future foreign or future capital investment, and then you commission it. And that's a big project.
Yeah, you make it sound so easy, but we know that there's a lot of steps along the way.
Yeah.
Greg, Saskatchewan as a jurisdiction, are there any challenges there? Is it farming land that you're on? Is it easy access? Talk to us about water. I guess with direct extraction, you're not really using the water. You take it up, you put it back. But talk to us about being in the area that you're in. Is it friendly up there, Greg?
Yeah. Well, in the spirit of full disclosure, I am from the province of Saskatchewan originally. Born and raised in Saskatoon, one of the largest cities in the province. And in fact, my mom's side, a couple of her brothers and sisters moved to Australia. One was in Melbourne for a while, and one was in Adelaide for a while.
No, I'm sorry.
Kindred, yeah, you must be from Sydney. So kindred spirit for sure. But the province of Saskatchewan, it's a resource-rich province. Uranium, gold, agriculture for sure, oil and gas, potash. I think we're one of the largest provinces supplying potash to the world. So it's a very friendly jurisdiction corporately when it comes to building industries. The province knows it's resource rich, maybe not as much manufacturing built. So they're very attuned to do what you're good at, and they're good at developing resources. So, for example, the tax regime is friendly in Saskatchewan. Permitting land is friendly in Saskatchewan. It makes things a lot easier as a business to start and to conduct operations in that province. So very friendly. They are equally excited about the lithium industry as we are. It's a new industry for them. So we're at Grounded Lithium. We're almost, in some respects, helping the province in terms of giving them insight guidance as to what makes businesses work. What's the royalty regime? Make it such that the province does well, the citizens of the province do well in terms of tax revenues and whatnot, but don't make it such that it becomes unfriendly or uncompetitive to adjacent provinces.
Right.
Is where I'm based currently in the province of Alberta, in Calgary, or to worldwide competition. So the province is, in our opinion, very cognizant and mindful of where they are in the world. And again, our experiences there are always friendly. Just a great jurisdiction. Very flat farmland where we are. Our first well was in the middle of a barley field, flat as a pancake. The glaciers rolled through Saskatchewan, millions and millions of years ago and flattened the province. So it's super friendly that way. An abundance of services. So again, oil and gas is quite around where we are. So, any kind of services to drill a well, to move product, people, short-term stays if you had to put your guys in hotels. It's all around that part of where we are, and just makes your operating cost structure that much less.
And we are looking as a globe, as a world, I guess, on that sort of the ESG, the environmental social governance side of things, and DLE, the direct extraction method, is very environmentally friendly. Do you see any challenges going forward, or do you see this as, we are going to be very environmentally friendly? We're in a jurisdiction which is easy to access. Any challenges ahead of you?
From an ESG perspective, I would say little or none.
Okay.
I think that the movement in the world is such that people are cognizant as to where the resources come from, and lithium's a funny one in some respects because I think the average person does not understand how lithium is currently put into their Teslas or to their Chevy Volts. And we have lithium spodumene mines in Canada, and those are open pit not a very nasty or very nasty kind of scar on the Earth's surface. So it does have some ESG concerns. The other major source is the salars in Latin America. And those are massive tailings ponds that when they're producing the briny water, they in part contaminate the pristine water at the same time. So you have the whole freshwater contamination issue in Latin America. But then, these tailings ponds are massive. You can see them from Google Earth. They're so big. And, it's a very unsightly and environmentally unfriendly way of doing things. In our case, lithium from brine, and there are companies in Latin America that are going the same way, as you're aware, Carrie. Lithium from brine and using direct lithium extraction, that briny water never sees the light of day. It's subsurface, it's produced through a pipe, it goes through a machine, and then the lithium absent brine or water brine is pumped back down into the surface. So it's closed loop in some respects, much more environmentally friendly. The disturbance on the earth is considerably less doing it that way than the other two alternatives. So yeah, to answer your question, maybe I'm, seeing things through rose-colored glasses here, but I just don't see that this would in any way draw negative attention from the ESG crowd. In fact, I think it's the opposite. Once we communicate how it works and the story.
And you're confident that it will work. There are those out there that say, well, they're not quite sure about it, but you're very confident that going forward, as you said earlier, it's already used in uranium industry. It's just moving it across to lithium extraction.
Exactly. My remarks are the same. I think that those technology questions will be solved on a commercial scale at some point in time. And we believe that that'll be solved in the tenure of grounded lithium. We think that the market's poised for it.
Fantastic. We're running out of time, Greg. It's been great to chat to you. Please come back and chat to me again because you're only just getting started. You just listed on the TSX-V at the end of August. We're talking to you in September 2022. So maybe we should have a chat towards the end of the year and see how things are going up there. But for now, tell me 3 reasons why you think people should be sitting up and taking notice of grounded lithium right now.
Sure. First, I think we're a compelling value proposition. We're a new entrant. We're a relatively small market cap company compared to our peers. So your entry point into our stock would be a lot less than others, which then, if we do our job right, can provide substantial returns. We call that torque in our investment. We are all investors. We've invested since day one in this company, so we're aligned with every shareholder, and it's not just the founder shares. There's hard money invested by the founders, which brings me to my second point too, is that all of us here are proven resource professionals. We are a team that has done this before in terms of energy development. And I think as an investor, when I look at my own personal investments, I look at the team almost first before I look at the value proposition. So team's important. We're a great team. Some of us have worked together for many, many years. Some of us are new, but that's the beauty of a team. You kind of storm and form, but we are proven. And then 3, we talked about this, Carrie, that's the jurisdiction of where we're in. Saskatchewan's a great place to do business, even though it's my home province and I was born there. As we say, we didn't choose Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan chose us, meaning we went where we thought the best rock was, and it just happened to be in Saskatchewan. So investment, people, and jurisdiction, top 3 things.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. That was a nice way to round it up. As I said right at the start, the TSX-V code is GRD. Greg Phaneuf, it's been great to have you on the Small Caps. Talk to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, Carrie. Enjoy the rest of your day.